everybody. I just want to talk to you a little bit about bird migration for this week's lesson. So we're actually a really great spot here in northern Utah to see a lot of migrating birds. Hopefully you've been noticing some. I know I've been seeing a lot of different birds flying over. The pelicans are here. I'm seeing sandhill cranes. Lots and lots of birds flying over, particularly the west end of the valley. I'm out there a lot. Seeing American avocets. As I mentioned, those pelicans and sandhill cranes, blackneck stilts, just a lot of great birds around. So I want to talk about why birds migrate, how they migrate, and a few of the birds that you might see here in Cache Valley passing through. So the number one reason that birds migrate is going to be because of food, so scarcity of food. So as the weather starts warming, there's going to be more food available further north. So you're starting to notice more insects coming up. Plants are turning green. So there is more food available. The second reason they might migrate is for mating. A lot of birds return to the same place each year to mate and to make their nest. That's also related to the abundance of food. So you can imagine raising young chicks is a lot of work, so if they can do that in an area with a lot of readily available food, it makes it a lot easier for the parents, and also gives those young ones, those babies, a much better chance of surviving. So birds actually fly on what we call flyways. So if you kind of think like if you take a road trip on a major highway, you're obviously going to take some rest stops to maybe pull over and take a nap if it's a long trip, to stop and get some food, use the bathroom, those sorts of things. So birds obviously need the same things. So there are 4 major flyways that cross through the U.S. that birds kind of use as the highway in the sky. So we have the Atlantic on the East Coast, the Mississippi, the Central, and the Pacific Flyway. So here in northern Utah, I'll post a picture, but the Pacific and Central Flyways almost converge, so we get a lot of migratory birds following those paths. So in order to migrate, it's still a question of debate. How do birds know where to go each year? How do they know where to find these rest stops and how to get to their summer breeding grounds? So there's a number of ways. If you think about just how you navigate, they might use landmarks. They might be able to use, obviously, the sun and the moon and the stars to navigate. It might be learned behavior that they learn from migrating with older birds that first year. And then there is some evidence that maybe they are able to use the magnetic field, the magnetic pole of the Earth. So the same thing that makes your compass point north, those magnetic poles might also help to orientate birds and help them to be able to find their way north and south each year as they migrate. So birds are just amazing animals. Some of them migrate thousands or tens of thousands of miles per year for migration. So some that you may see here in Cache Valley, I talked about the pelicans are here. You start seeing them arrive in March. And the pelicans use kind of the greater Salt Lake ecosystem to breed and as their summer grounds. So you'll see them down at the Bear River Bird Refuge. You'll see them around some of the ponds here in Cache Valley, this whole area, and they use that for their summer breeding grounds. We also get Swainson's hawks, or one we see all summer long. So Swainson's hawks, they're probably one of the longest migrating raptors or birds of prey. So they actually come from Argentina, returning here north each year. And they can migrate over 12,000 miles round trip per year. So sometimes it's just 7,000 miles and just one leg of that journey. And as they pass through Central America, Mexico, and places in Texas, there's really awesome, we call them kettles. So the Swainson's hawks, all of them will migrate at the same time. A large group of hawks is called a kettle. And sometimes as they're migrating, you'll be able to see just these huge groups or kettles of hawks as they make that migration. So they might come here to Utah, and you'll see them throughout the summer, oftentimes along the sides of roads, on fences and telephone poles, particularly in the rural areas around the agricultural fields. And they mainly eat insects. They like grasshoppers and other insects. So they're arriving as those insects come out, and this is where they will also make their nests and raise those chicks before they return back down south to Argentina and Brazil come August, September. We also get a really fun one that you're not going to see now, but in the fall, we get quite a few tundra swans that migrate through. If you get a chance to drive down to the refuge, or you'll even see a few ones around the ponds around here in about October and early November. So they just pass through here in the fall on their way south to their winter grounds. So they're usually only here for maybe about a month. Sometimes they get huge flocks of them in the wetlands around here and down at the refuge. Sometimes as much as 60,000 tundra swans, with maybe a few trumpeter swans mixed in. So they're always a fun one to watch for. One of probably my favorites that are just really fun to watch that I've been seeing a lot of lately are American avocets. So they're kind of charismatic, fun birds to watch. They come here for the summer months and use kind of islands in the wetlands to nest and lay their eggs and raise their chicks here for the summers. So we're just a great area, again, where those two kind of flyways of the Pacific and Central meet, that we can see a lot of amazing birds migrating through. And you're probably seeing some just at your bird feeders as well. So we're just hearing a lot more bird calls and a lot of different birds coming now that we're into spring and there's lots of food available for these birds. So in our lesson plan today, you'll find an online activity to explore migration. You'll also find a migration game that you can print off some cards and you can throw those outside, lay them down, and you'll just need a dice. And we'll take you through kind of some of the hazards that birds face as they migrate. So if you think about birds, they have their rest stops on this bird flyway and these places they go to find food. As those places change, as our wetlands, as we know, have undergone significant changes, that can impact bird migration. If they get to an area where in the pasture they were able to rest and find food, and it's no longer there, maybe there's a shopping mall or homes there instead, that can pose a challenge to these birds. Other hazards, are going to be things like predators, power lines, lots of different things that can be hazardous to those birds as they're migrating. So that's a really fun game to play with the whole family to explore some of those obstacles that our migrating birds face. So you actually can pick a specific bird species that you want to be for that game and see if you make it. At the end of the game, you either will have survived migration or you may not have. You may have died along the way, which unfortunately happens to many birds during migration. Other resources, you'll find some links on there for some things you can do at home to help birds. So some of them might be looking at your windows and making sure that they're safe for birds. If you have large windows that are really reflective, it's easy for birds to fly into those and injure themselves. So some tips on things you can do to make those windows safer, whether that's posting some designs or silhouettes of maybe some birds on that window so that they know that's a solid surface. Some other simple tips and things we can do. We don't often think about we love to feed birds, but it's important to keep those feeders clean and sanitize them every once in a while so that we're not spreading diseases between our birds. And also just thinking about our pets. So they have enough natural predators out there. Our migrating birds don't need to worry about our pet cats and dogs as well, particularly for ground nesting birds or birds that like to overnight on the ground. Our cats in particular, it can cause a lot of mortality or a lot of deaths among those. So thinking about trying to keep our cats indoors, and your dogs on a leash, particularly if you're in an area with a lot of migrating birds that are maybe out trying to rest. So check out some of those ideas and get out and bird. So if you have a good birding book, this is probably one of my favorites. But if you don't have a book, there's a lot of apps available down there. iNaturalist, I know if you've been following our Staying Home with Stokes, you'll see our iNaturalist challenge. But it's really simple to download the iNaturalist app, and even if you don't know very many bird species, all you have to do is try and snap a picture, and that will help you identify what kind of bird it is. So it's a pretty amazing tool. There's lots of amazing places nearby in the valley here to go find some of these birds. So there's a link that will take you to a website that will list all sorts of different trails and areas that you can go check out and find some birds near you. So happy birding, guys, and do all you can to help protect our feathered friends out there. We'll talk to you next time here on Staying Home with Stokes. Bye-bye.